Uh, uh. Good morning.
Hello,
Good
and
morning.
welcome to another Morning Deuce with Davis Bindle. Happy Thursday morning, April 28th. You're here with D-Spin, brought to you by #trending.com. Today we're going to talk about driverless cars. I have a side project going on that's going to go up on #trending. It's a huge video. But what I did today was, well, let's start at the beginning. There's some news in the world of driverless cars. I'm going to catch you up to date. Google has invested a lot of money in driverless cars. Tesla has a lot of interesting technology that could relate to driverless cars. Now, other automotive companies have started to invest money, including ride-sharing cars like Uber and Lyft. So, a union has been announced between Google, Uber, Lyft, Volvo, Ford, and I think there might even be a couple other companies, but those are the major five. They're all uniting together to make the Self-Driving Safety Coalition. And basically what that means is they're going to pool their money, resources, legal teams, lobbyists, etc., and try to push as much regulation to get driverless cars on the road as fast as possible. So I heard this and it really interested me, and I started doing I put my journalism cap on and I headed downtown with my cell phone, and I started to ask people if they thought they would get in a driverless car or not, and if they thought it was safe or it wasn't safe, and how they felt about the whole thing. And I talked to like 25 people, recorded them, started to put this video together. And I, talked to a bunch of different ages, demographics, racial demographics, European people, just everybody I could talk to. A lot of people said no. The most common reasons for no were no, because of the lack of control, it makes me nervous. No, because I believe in the technology, but if something goes wrong, you still need a human there to fix it. No, because it would just be too creepy to me, and I don't think it makes sense. No, because I don't think it would know the right directions or where to take me. Some people are saying like, no, what if there's a detour? What if there's something that's going on with the road? There's no critical thinking. And then the yeses I got were yes, because I think if there's enough driverless cars, they can communicate with each other and it can make the process even easier. Yes, because as of now, Google has already tested a driverless car that's driven hundreds of thousands of miles, I believe, maybe even 1,000,000 miles at this point, almost flawlessly. Other people saying yes because it would make commutes so much easier and they could just ride in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat and get work done, talk on their cell phones. It was so interesting. Some people were so creeped out by the idea. Other people were just waiting for it to happen. Then I decided to take a Lyft myself, and I talked to a driver who works for Lyft, and he brought up some great points. His points were, technology, people say it's great all the time, but there's always a negative impact. He was saying that a lot of people he knows who drive Uber and Lyft have those jobs because they had issues in other sectors of work. They lost other jobs. They've been displaced from other jobs. They've been cut back their hours. Whatever their craft is, they've lost money and they're supplementing their income. So having driverless Lyft and Uber's cars eliminates that income for them. And, the draw to doing that is you can do it whenever you want, however you want. So they can't supplement their income with that many jobs that you can do on demand. He was really interested, and he was saying, it's a lack of trust, but it also could have a huge economic impact. I took an Uber home from work, and that driver, he trusted all the technology. He was just afraid if something ran across the street, if someone runs a red light, if someone doesn't obey traffic laws, he was worried that the car wouldn't be able to respond. But then I asked him how it would impact his job, and he said he was thinking of quitting his other job because he was making more money driving Uber. But now he's, I brought it up and we talked about it. He's almost saying like, maybe I shouldn't pull the trigger on that move so quickly because maybe this isn't, something that can last long enough for me. So that was a really interesting impact. And then at work, we covered the story, and we actually had sound bites from a committee meeting, the National Highway Transportation Safety Board. They had advocates on both sides. I mean, there was an advocate who came up and said, this is the wave of the future. We need to get invested. It's ready now. 94% of car collisions and accidents are related to human error. That was what he was going off of. If we can eliminate that human error, then we're better off. So let's eliminate that. Let's get the driverless cars going. Let's get the process started. The other side was saying we weren't ready yet with our technology because we still need a human in the passenger seat, no matter what, to be able to take control if something goes wrong. It was a very interesting relationship. Everyone I talked to had different opinions. For me, the most interesting idea and the selling point in stories like this, I try to follow the money. And there's a lot of different money things going on. The first money thing was it would be significantly more profitable for Google, Lyft, and Uber to go driverless. First off, they could use some of the technology that Google in particular is already working on, but they could partner with such companies like Tesla and use solar-powered batteries, eliminate so much of the cost of gasoline, the overhead. I think it costs $3 with the current Tesla car, the way the battery is, $3 to drive from San Diego to Los Angeles. So you're eliminating the price of gas, that overhead, immediately off the books for Lyft and Uber and Google if they get into car sharing, which they probably are. And companies like Apple want to too. Then you eliminate the cost of the driver. And, if the drivers form a union or if at some point they get insurance or something like that, you would have to pay that to them. Well, you don't have to do that with a driverless car. So if a ride costs you $10 and Uber or Lyft is making $3 and the other $7 goes to the driver, let's say, well, now the ride doesn't have to cost $10 because there's no gas. So you can kind of cut that down and then you don't have to pay the driver. And next thing you know, the ride for the consumer might only cost $4 or $5, 40%. But all 4 or 5 are going to the company with very little overhead. So obviously they want you to think it's safe because it's profitable for them to think it's safe. Then I look on the other hand, I follow the money the other way. You know what companies are the most upset about driverless cars? That would be insurance companies because they rely on those 94% of accidents to be caused by human error to make a profit. And if insurance companies are upset at the idea of driverless cars, it has nothing to do with them being upset because they think it's going to cause problems. They're upset because they think it will cause less accidents. And if there aren't accidents, insurance companies don't make money. And that to me was a huge key because if you're worried it's too safe for you to make money, then it's probably safe enough to get on the road. That was my thinking. But I could see it either way. And it's going to impact more industries. I mean, it could impact car sales. Families could be buying less cars. If it's less money for you to get to work by taking a driverless car for $3 a day than owning your own with registration, insurance, upkeep, maintenance, everything that's going to, be required to maintain a car, maybe a family only has one car for long drives and one parent is starting to just take ride sharing to work. And now it's even cheaper because they have programs like Lyft Line that 2 or 3 passengers can get picked up at once in a car. You'd have, those options to minimize the price even more. That auto sales might go down, honestly. And these cars would probably be better maintained because they can just get constant regular checkups by big corporations. It might really impact the auto sales industry. Ford, Volvo are probably trying to get involved to get as much equipment corporately into these cars as they can, but you got to figure in the short run, dealerships are going to have a problem. And then mechanics are going to have to change the way they do things, learn how to operate on driverless cars. If there's less cars on the road, that could really impact their industry. But if there's less cars on the road and more of the cars are battery powered, that's pretty good for the environment. We have such horrible issues going on with the environment, climate change. If we're eliminating a lot of the gas-powered vehicles over time, that's a huge positive for the climate. So all these things wrestle around my head. I think it's a very, very interesting idea, and I don't think it's as far away as you guys might believe before you started listening to me. I mean, 5-6 years ago, we were rocking the iPhone 1 at most. Most people hardly had, there was a lot of people who didn't even have smartphones. Now you can watch Netflix on your phone while you're at the gym, and the quality is amazing. Things are moving. Data streams instantaneously all the time, pretty much everywhere. It's not that hard to imagine a computer driving a car in the very near future. Whether or not it's overall good or overall bad, technology is a double-edged sword, but I think what industries might shrink, others could grow out of it. So, there might not be people driving for Lyft and Uber anymore, but driverless cars could create a different type of industry that we're not even aware of yet that could employ more and more people. So it's a very interesting transition, and I think everyone should be aware that it's happening and think about how that could impact them. You want to be forward-thinking. You want to be a vanguard in something like this. So I'm excited. My video is going to come out hopefully a little later this week on #trending.com. You can take a peek at it, listen to some of the points some people made, give me some of your feedback. If you have a topic, I'd love to investigate it like this. I mean, this really excites me. So I'd love to, if anyone reaches out to me at dspin4, the number 4, at dspin4 the win, or at #trenders, I'd love to do that. And now it's time to wipe it clean with part 2. And if you've been listening to the podcast, I did a meatless week 2 weeks ago. And the reason I did it was because I watched a documentary that talked about how methane in agriculture contributes more to problems with the environment than cars, like we talked about earlier, or most of the gas and industrial things that we use. Basically, raising cattle is a really huge issue for our climate. Well, according to The Independent, Denmark and its ethics council is asking for a tax on red meat to fight the ethical problem of climate change. So like we've raised taxes on cigarettes to try to limit cancer, Denmark, which I believe has one of the highest quality of lives of any country in the world and a pretty high life expectancy, is literally trying to create a tax to limit people from eating red meat because they say cattle contributes to 1/10 of global warming emissions, which I think might even be under. They're saying people are ethically obligated to try to change their eating habits, and they want to influence it through taxes. Now, that would be very hard in the United States. The meat and dairy industry is huge. Major companies like Monsanto and companies like that, they're very involved in lobbying. I mean, it's a huge, huge industry. And that's in the documentary. I mean, the guy had such a hard time talking to environmental organizations about the impact of agriculture and meat on the planet in terms of climate change. But sometimes in a smaller country that has really good healthcare and a great quality of life, some of these moves are a little easier to make. I have eaten meat again, but I haven't had beef since that meatless week. And I don't think I'm going to. Now, if you're drinking dairy and stuff, all dairy cows eventually become, meat cows. So you're still contributing. I mean, it's still a contribution. It's just my little way of trying to chop down. But I do think it's something we need to think about. I mean, they're not saying it for health reasons. They want to charge you to eat red meat. They're saying because the climate, and it's not ethically sustainable to eat red meat at the rate that we eat it if we want to save the planet. So that just made me think. That's what we're wiping it clean with. Maybe we should look inside our own habits to see what makes sense. I know I've said that before. So maybe that's a reoccurring theme. But yeah, a little innovative for our Thursday morning. Driverless cars and meatless lifestyles. Maybe that's what we're talking about. Wow, I'm getting like super hippie. It's like, oh, driverless cars and no oil. And like, oh, look, don't eat red meat. That's not 1,000% me, but sometimes, I guess lately, it's just the way things are turning. But anyway, yeah, if you're passionate about the driverless car issue, let me know. I'm interested in your feedback, or let your congressman know, because those guys are going to end up voting on some of this legislation real soon. This has been the Morning Deuce. I'm David Spindle, and I look forward to seeing you on Friday. We're almost there. We almost finished the week. Later.